Wyoming's always been a state that emphasizes rugged individualism. We're pretty libertarian, always have been.
The golden hills of Wyoming, an ever-spinning wheel of fortune that caught in its mad whirl adventurers, pioneers, the renegade horde.
However, throughout Wyoming's history, commodities, not rugged individualism, has powered its economy.
The commodity that we got established on was cattle, and the commodity that came into our future fairly shortly thereafter was oil, and then came coal.
We're struggling right now to transition with that history because we rely heavily on coal, oil, and gas for most of our state's revenue.
There has been a long-term discussion about diversifying our economy. We've recognized that depletable resources we've banked on, coal and oil and gas, are eventually going to be depleted.
Today, Wyoming is looking to embrace a new commodity.
We need to find alternative industries and viable sectors.
Both blockchain and cryptocurrency represent values that Wyoming can get online with.
As the world of blockchain and crypto goes more and more mainstream, and the most crypto-friendly is on.
When you think of crypto-friendly cities, you have to start with Miami, Florida. The Miami mayor, Francis Suarez.
I want us to differentiate ourselves as a crypto capital of the United States or of the world.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
New York City is going to be the center of the cryptocurrency industry.
But that race is led by the cowboy state.
It's about philosophy on this one, and it's the philosophy of that rugged individualism, the independence, and the ability to really get things done for yourself and control your own destiny. You get that from a blockchain, and you don't get that without it.
My name is Caitlin Long. I'm co-founder of Untitled Financial Group, which is a bank chartered to serve the digital asset industry in Wyoming that will be operating in 2022.
Caitlin Long was born in Wyoming, but spent the majority of her career working for Morgan Stanley in New York. However, she's always kept one foot back home in Cheyenne.
Wyoming has a really interesting history of leading. Wyoming gave women the right to vote 50 years before the rest of the United States. When Wyoming invented the limited liability company, new form of business entity in 1977, it took about a decade for the rest of the United States to follow Wyoming. Here, Wyoming is leading yet again in digital asset laws. We already are seeing other states follow. I think it won't even take a decade for the critical laws of Wyoming to be enacted by the other states in the United States.
Because of champions like Caitlin Long, Wyoming is leading the charge when it comes to integrating blockchain and crypto to U.S. law.
When I got into Bitcoin, got some early coins, decided when it started running up in the previous bull market in 2017 to donate some appreciated Bitcoin to the University of Wyoming Foundation to fund scholarships for female engineers. And I thought, well, I'll just quietly use some of my Bitcoin gains to help solve that problem.
And the University of Wyoming just sort of shrugged their shoulders and probably said something along the lines of, what's Bitcoin?
The University of Wyoming could not accept her donation because the state's money transfer laws restrict certain kinds of assets.
I said at the time, we've got to fix this because this Bitcoin thing is going to be big and you don't want to miss it.
We thought, well, what are we doing that for? That's ridiculous. So in 2016, we started to look at this Money Transmitter Act revision.
What started as an attempt to give back to her home state ended with her leading the charge on Wyoming's cryptocurrency and blockchain regulations.
We really started to realize that there was an open landscape for developing policy around blockchain and digital assets. We got together at that point and we kind of formed this little collaborative team of enthusiasts and policymakers that started planning for what a future could look like with digital assets.
There were 90 people involved at the legislature and about 30 people who endorsed this outside of the legislature in the very beginning.
Since that time, we put together the Blockchain Task Force and now we formalized it into a permanent select committee.
After fixing the money transmitter statute, the task force took on a whole host of other laws concerning blockchain and crypto.
There have been 24 laws passed in 4 different legislative sessions. But I'd say the most important ones are that Wyoming clarified the legal status of digital assets.
We realized there was an open question about what is a digital asset? What is a cryptocurrency when it comes to property rights and statutes? If a court is looking at this asset, what are they going to do with it?
We defined it as property, and that's the basis upon which financial services can be built, and just basically making the law compatible with the way the technology was actually working. Very foundational.
The next steps? To fundamentally change the banking system in Wyoming and possibly the country.
We have something called a dual banking system in the United States, where some banks are chartered federally and some banks are chartered by the states.
But if an organization dealt with crypto, they were not allowed to use the US banking system.
If you had crypto, if you had blockchain, if you had any word associated with it in your name or your business model or your business plan, you wouldn't get banked. And if you can't get banked, you can't have a business. So we created a whole new type of state-chartered bank called the Special Purpose Depository Institution, the Speedy Bank.
It operates the core payment systems for the US dollar, specifically ACH and FedWire. And right now, there are no crypto companies that have direct access to that. It's kept separate. So banks can access that, but they can't provide services for crypto. It's a way to plug the digital asset industry into the traditional financial services industry in a safe and sound manner.
Importantly, this would also give those crypto banks, if they were to get this speedy, access to the Fed's payment system. And that's really important because that would really cut down on the cost and the time that it takes for these transactions to go through.
If you go back to thinking about when you were kids and you were exchanging baseball cards with your friend, what did you do? You both held on to both baseball cards and you both let go at the same time, and then you had simultaneous settlement of that trade of the baseball card. Nobody owed a baseball card to anybody because the transaction happened simultaneously. The adults screwed that up and we should learn from the kids because the kids had it right. There's no reason why you should ever have an IOU for the baseball card. There's no reason why you should ever have an IOU for a dollar payment. We have the technology to be able to do simultaneous settlement of a US dollar against other types of assets, namely digital assets and others. But we don't have the capability to do that because of the regulatory regime.
When I signed it, I was very excited because no one else had really done that. Everybody else was trying to figure out how to shoehorn digital asset custody into an existing trust structure or into some sort of existing banking structure.
Regrettably, we see at the national level that there's a tremendous amount of resistance.
Crypto markets aren't actually an alternative to our banking system. They're a mirror of the same broken system with even less accountability and no rules at all.
If you were buying stock for speculation, you'd be protected by rules against things like pump and dump. Right. But not when you're buying Bitcoin for speculation.
There are 4 chartered Wyoming Speedies, and none of us have been approved by the Federal Reserve yet.
One of cryptocurrency's biggest hurdles really is that it is so new. The fact that, it is such a turbulent asset can kind of spook some of traditional Wall Street and professional money managers.
I do think they are risky. They're not backed by anything.
The reason they see resistance is because we're creating a banking institution that doesn't require FDIC insurance. The reason it doesn't require FDIC insurance is because it's not able to be at risk. It's a 100% reserve, 100% depository institution that's incapable of lending out those funds.
I've been back to Washington 2 or 3 times. I've been told that we're getting very close. I think that governors and bank presidents understand how important it is that the United States, not just Wyoming, but the United States actually jump ahead on this because we are losing ground to China. If we don't get in the game soon, we are going to be playing catch up.
Wyoming's crypto industry has some allies in Washington. Its most famous may be one of the state's own senators.
I encourage people to buy and hold. I encourage them to save Bitcoin for their retirement, for their future.
It's not the Wyoming way to sit around and wait for change. We want to be innovative, and we're going to push back as hard as we can against the feds.
It's not just cryptocurrencies. Wyoming has taken the first step towards recognizing companies, organizations, and even cities run entirely on the blockchain.
July 1st, Wyoming became the first state to formally legally recognize decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, in our statutes, and we created the DAO LLC.
It's a fancy way of saying you can establish a company using blockchain and put it under an LLC moniker. Wyoming really has been a leader in business activity for decades. LLCs were first established in Wyoming law, and this is just an extension of that LLC.
We're kind of going back to the original roots of how do you let people self-organize and give them the ability to do a couple of things.
The idea of a DAO is the idea that we're going to have some portion of our company's responsibilities delegated to algorithms, programming, code, where code is going to run the company as opposed to your manager or members that show up every day to the office. We're just going to turn it over to code.
One of the biggest DAOs out there that people know the most about is a group that's known as Constitution DAO. They crowdsourced a bunch of funding to try to buy the US Constitution at Sotheby's. They actually raised over $40 million in less than 2 weeks.
We would really love to display that Constitution at the University of Wyoming. And so even the governor of Wyoming got involved to try to basically market to the 15,000 people, each of whom had a vote on where the Constitution, if the Constitution DAO had won, where was that Constitution going to be displayed?
Begin the auction, lot 1787, the Constitution of the United States of America. United States Constitution at $41 million. Sold 41.
They, of course, lost to Citadel Chief Executive Officer Ken Griffin, but it really was sort of the proof of concept for a lot of people when it came to DAOs.
We've already had over 150 DAOs filed in the state of Wyoming.
The Billionaire Zombies Club is an NFT art collective which is transitioning to DAO leadership. Alicia is a Korea-based DAO project that finances real estate with crypto. You have crypto tokens like ELO Coin, Space Dogs, and even a collective that plays blockchain-based games together.
There are companies from all over the world that are now looking at Wyoming as a place where they want to innovate and create new products or technologies or businesses that are formed through a DAO LLC.
And within Wyoming's own borders is one of the most ambitious DAOs yet. City DAO's citizens took advantage of Wyoming's new laws by collectively purchasing 40 acres near the Montana-Wyoming border, about 6 hours from Cheyenne. Basic citizenship with voting rights is about $3,000, and each subplot of land goes for $300. City Hall is located on a Discord where members share memes, lofty goals, and details of a recent hack.
If you do any kind of business in this country, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to see that business registered in Delaware. Why? Because that's where you do it. And our point was Wyoming can be that venue for blockchain enterprise, for crypto. We're seeing businesses from around the country locate mining operations, and in fact, we just had one that moved its headquarters to Wyoming.
One of those businesses is Elite Mining.
Elite Mining is a green mining company that mines Bitcoin and other algorithms on the blockchain.
Thank you everyone for coming. I cannot begin to tell you how humbling a moment this is for me.
Elite Mining is one of the first companies that's actually shifted operations into Cheyenne. Our company itself uses payroll through blockchain. All of our employees, team members, contractors, we pay them all through cryptocurrency. The whole city as a whole has welcomed us with open arms, rolled out the red carpet for us, and essentially said, we want to work with you. I fit right in because I'm from a small town personally, and this is more of a small town that's growing into what I would call the cryptocurrency version of Silicon Valley. We want to make sure that people understand, especially in Wyoming, but as you know, the United States as a whole, that this trend is coming. It's not going to stop.
When we get to the point where we've completely implemented this blockchain technology, when we have digital identities that allow us to engage authoritatively with our banks and with our government, we can have privacy rights that we want. not that are either allowed to us or forced upon us. We want that independence, we want that freedom, we want that individuality. And that's a common theme that brings together, honestly, bipartisan support for this in Wyoming.